Welcome to the shop, and in this episode we have another elimination to make up for the fact that Cornbread left abruptly, leaving production no other choice but to add a filler episode in order to fulfill the amount of episodes actually ordered by VH1. So we need a non-elimination episode, which I think was this one. There's not much going on at all. We are back in the workroom, back to Diabetes, complaining, explaining all of the reasons why she should be in the top and Georges shouldn't have won. And I don't really have a problem with it. She called her outfit a piece of napkin. I mean, I wasn't really living for Diabetes, but after seeing what Georges have been doing outside of Drag Race, when he is in full control of what he says, when he says them, without, the pressure of working 15 hours a day, every day, being in isolation alone in your room, without internet, without a phone. So after getting a taste of Georges when the cameras are not rolling, I'm like, I think I'm starting to like Diabetes a little bit more. I'm actually enjoying her coming for you. And we have this whole scenes that, of course, follows the villain edit of Diabetes that we saw the last episode, because they need to continue this narrative a little bit before she starts her redemption edit later on in the episodes. But for the moment, we need to be in the mindset that she's still a villain. So of course we also have confessionals coming in from Georges putting Daya in her place, confessionals from Jasmine, the narrator of Daya's villain edit.
Daya is jealous, and I think she is boo-boo hurt because she was not in the top. And girls, she shouldn't have been in the top. Girls, step it up and stop being a sourpuss and stop giving Crystal method.
And I'm like, well, whatever she is, she can still blame it on the edit. Georges, what do you have to say for yourself? Oh shit. I think it's very, very telling that she apologized to Monet and Mo, but she didn't really apologize to Cynthia. I find that extremely curious. Moving on, it's the day after and Diabetes is apologizing. And I was living for this. Diabetes was trying, they even cut her out, I don't know if you noticed. But in this conversation, she was basically saying, Georges, there are two different perspectives to this. As a friend, I am rooting for you. But as a competitor, I'm going to come for you as much as I can. But the as a competitor part, they cut it out. You can really see the hard cut that they put in there.
I genuinely love you and care about you as a friend. So as a friend, congratulations. I hope you accept my apology. And just know that I love you and I'm very proud of you.
This apology Daya is giving to Georges is faker than my breastplate.
She's going to be allowed to verbalize it later on. Not yet, because we have to still be in that mode in which Diabetes is still a villain. We don't know what's going to happen. We have Jasmine coming in a confessional telling us again, yeah, Diabetes is apologizing, she doesn't give a shit. So this is not happening yet. But she will have a chance to properly explain herself, or even better, she will have a chance to explain herself without her explanation being edited out later on. This is all going to happen later on. And at the same time, of course, RuPaul comes in and announces the Maxi Challenge. We don't have a mini challenge as usual. We never have mini challenges anymore. But she also says something very interesting, because she says, Queens, we are almost halfway through the race. It's episode 7 and we are almost halfway. We are not even halfway yet. We are almost halfway. So I was thinking, how many episodes are we going to have for this fucking season? Because I tried to compile what was the plan, the number of episodes, especially based on the fact that last season, season 13, was actually 16 episodes as well. If we don't take into account that Corona special, I think that we're going to get 16 episodes for season 14. We already recovered from the episode that we lost when Cornbread had to go home, and we basically had like a double elimination in episode 5, and we're already recovering that with this episode. What I am expecting from now on, it's going to be 5 more elimination episodes and 2 non-elimination episodes, namely the usual top 4 that we get at the end, when we basically have an episode with the top 4 and they do something together. And the other one is going to be the gold ticket. That can happen anywhere from episode 8 to episode 13, but at some point it will have to happen. Then of course a reunion and a live finale. Anyway, from this we jump directly to rehearsal. What can I tell you about rehearsal? I had the time of my life. I actually like this challenge. You see, since there's not going to be an elimination later on, they don't need to pull all of this editing magic bullshit that they usually do to make some queens look worse than they actually are, some other queens look better. Sometimes you have like direct interference, like you have either Michelle or Ross or Rue or whoever is in there giving more feedback, more directions, complaining even more, even when a queen is actually performing well. But if she will have to be eliminated or she will have to be in the bottom, you can see that they push it, they frustrate them, they ask them to repeat the lines 1,000 times. But since no one is going to actually go home later on, nothing of this is happening. I had fun watching this, and I had the most fun watching Jasmine, Bosco, and Lady Actress. Bosco was phenomenal. She didn't have many lines, but the little that she had, she was completely in character in this fucking makeup. The makeup was amazing. And Jasmine looked like Alyssa. That was Alyssa Edward. It was not a bad challenge. They could have worked a little bit more with the script, but it was not a bad challenge. And it was not a bad rehearsal, because I actually had fun watching this.
I feel like I'm doing good. I feel like I'm doing better than the other girls, I'm not gonna lie.
Where is my purse? Wait, this isn't my purse. Did I steal someone's purse?
Georgia's is really, really lucky that the show is not trying to gaslight her, because she is buying into all the bullshit that the judges are serving. And she is lucky she's not in Jen's position. She is lucky that they want the best for her, because if they wanted to gaslight her, she would be royally fucked, like royally fucked. Moving on, it's a new day in the workroom, we have no mirror moments, but we are going to talk about the Folsom Street Fair. I saw a thread on Reddit where there was a person completely losing it. I think he got an aneurysm, because on Drag Race, a queer show, they talked about something queer. You know, a festival of sexual liberation. Because you have to understand one thing. Since Drag Race is going to sell the queer world to the straights, you have to absolutely remove any shred of sexual liberation, any shred of anything that might not be family friendly. Because remember, we queers, we are not people with our history, our things that we believe in, our way of how we want to live our lives. No. We have to be family friendly because we are entertainment for these other people. So there was this idiot complaining. Said, oh my god, these people are disgusting. What the fuck is your problem? Let these people do whatever the fuck they want. This is not something that happens in any street. It's an event. It's a one specific event.
Folsom Street Fair is an opportunity for people to go and explore their sexuality, explore who they are, be part of the community without judgment.
At Folsom, there's literally people like having full-on
Sex.
At the fair?
Yeah.
Bitch, I want to go to the fair!
It's called sexual liberation for a reason, and I hope that the world will get a little bit more of that. If people had a little bit more of that kind of love, everyone would be a little bit more relaxed, you know? Like, come on, don't be so uptight. Have a little bit of fun back there. There's nothing wrong with it. And I am surprised that Drag Race actually pulled it off, because they had the perfect opportunity with Rock and Sakura 2 seasons ago, if you know what I mean. But I am surprised that they actually gave a shout out to this festival. Very pleasantly surprised. So I'm happy to see Drag Race celebrating our culture a little bit more. The problem that I have is when they pull kind of shit that wants to appeal to much younger viewers. That's when I have a problem with it, because many aspects of our culture, they are not made for kids. They are not family friendly. They are not supposed to be family friendly. They shouldn't be nowhere near family and family friendly.
There is always a family-friendly version of Pride, but I don't necessarily think that every gay space needs to be family-friendly.
So the moment the show wants to pull this kind of things, like talking and celebrating the Folsom Street Fair, and the moment after they try to appeal to kids, that's when I'm starting to have a problem, because you cannot have the two things. Either you have one or you have the other. Nevertheless, moving on. What do we have? The runway. Willow and Bosco were my favorite. Willow's outfit was really sexy, it was creative, and overall it was impressive because she really managed to mix the seductiveness of the outfit with the campiness of it. Bosco, pink leather country look. I love it. She was beautiful. She was absolutely beautiful. Deja, don't love it. Next. Carrie. Carrie is 11 years late for the air bowl challenge. I didn't like it, no. No. I appreciate the effort, but I didn't like it. Georges. The outfit sparkles, but all I see is a car crash. Angeria wears gold because of course that's the color of a goddess. Jasmine. Love Jasmine, ate the outfit. Lady, best runway reveal in a long time. I actually believe she really fell. It was good. It was really good. And then Diabetes, in her best interpretation of remote working during a pandemic. Moving on to the challenge. What did I think about this challenge? It was good. I liked it. Because they actually trolled the queens. The queens didn't know that basically this whole challenge was about farts. It's called Daytona Wins. They didn't really explain which kind of wins. But it was about that. So I really appreciated that they kind of trolled the queens a little bit. But it was so overused. By the second fart joke, I was already like, are they going to do it for every single moment? Are we going to have fart jokes all over the place? And by the way, I agree in a way, fart jokes can be hilarious, unless you use them 30 times or you are Rock'em Sakura. In that case, it's not hilarious. I think that if they had like 6 or 7, it would have been completely enough, because they had perfect setups. But they really overused it. They really overused it. It was so much, it became annoying after a while. I was cringing. I think it kind of ruined the challenge. I think this challenge really had great potential. They really tried to do something special. I mean, fucking with the queens in that way was a strike of genius if you ask me. Could have been better. They could have taken it, to the next level. My favorite queen was Bosco, and my favorite line was when Michelle was doing the voiceover and she said, "Who invited these 2 prostitutes?"
Is Diesel the only man in Daytona? And who would invite 2 prostitutes to a wedding?
Don't you mean 3 prostitutes?
That was the best joke for me. It was the best. But all in all, all of the queens were funny, unless they were involved in a car crash, of course. For me, Bosco and Candem were the best. And apparently all of the queens seem to agree, because later on in Untucked, when they're going to talk about it, pretty much everyone would agree that Bosco and Candem basically had this one in the bag. Yagi, to me, it was a great episode. It was very feel-good. It was a good episode. It was. And this is also one of the reasons why we're not going to have the critiques for this episode, because there is no need for that. Since they didn't need to push any narratives, since they didn't need to go through the usual mental gymnastic to either put some people in the bottom or save people from the bottom. They are not trying to push anyone down in order to elevate others by comparison, because there is not much bullshit going on. They are not trying to push narratives during the critiques. That's why we're not going to have the critiques, because they basically elevated everyone in that runway. They had compliments for everyone. They recognized everybody's talent, which is something that you can do and also be critical of what didn't really work, like they do on Canada's Drag Race, season 2, not season 1. Recognize the talents on one hand, but also recognize the shortcomings on the other. It's not a difficult trick to manage. This episode was proof that, incredibly, Michelle can give out compliments without being a total bitch about it. Let's move on to Untucked. In the beginning, we have Diabetes going full circle by basically pulling a Jasmine. She starts talking and it never stops. Everybody is bitch-facing. You have a confessional of Bosco coming in and saying, my god, she talks so much. And she is right. She is right. I don't understand why she came for Jasmine so much. Because yes, it's a joke, but when you do the same joke over and over, then I'm starting to think, well, your joking comes off as a little bit of plausible deniability. What's the problem? I think she is projecting a little bit on Jasmine, because she does the exact same things. She, takes moments for herself and starts talking like there's no tomorrow. She complains about being safe. She talks too much. She is basically a carbon copy of Jasmine. And I wouldn't have a problem with it if she didn't call Jasmine every step of the way. Jasmine, you talk too much. Jasmine, you complain about being safe. So we have this magical moment in which basically everybody is calling out Diabetes for pulling a Jasmine. And I was living. Then after this, Jasmine has a moment and Diabetes interrupts her twice. Just to have the whole thing going full circle. One of the 2 times she interrupts Jasmine to ask to everyone, so, who do you think it's going to be the top 2? And basically, the answer is, well, pretty much we all agreed that Bosco and Camden are the one who had this one in the back. I don't know. It's difficult to say because there is a whole layer of editing in the middle. It's difficult to say. But if things like these were happening outside of Drag Race, part of me would want someone to troll her a little bit. Not in a bad way, just a little bit, to have a little bit of fun with it. Possibly another Queens, you know? I could imagine Bob, for example, trolling her a little bit. With this thing of wanting to get more attention. One thing that I found interesting about this Untucked is that T.S. Madison probably said something, but it didn't make it to the final cut. I don't know why they would cut it. I don't know if they ran out of time. I don't know if they wanted Jasmine coming out later on to have more of an impact, and so they cut out what she said. What I know is that at some point T.S. Madison comes in and she starts saying, "We are queer people, we should never forget the importance of family." And everyone's reaction, I mean, look at Georgia's and Jasmine's reaction, they are crying.
People really don't understand how important it is for us LGBTQI and all the other letters people to have our families really support us. Because I remember my story, I went out into the world.
They are like crying. I'm like, what the fuck are you crying about? I don't understand it. So I think that she talked about something that was not very easy to digest. And that's why we had those reactions. And that's what sparkled everything else later on. After this, Jasmine basically comes out. She comes out as trans. But before she does that, she says something that I find very interesting, very realistic. Because she said, from Drag Race, what I am looking for is financial stability, which is perfectly understandable. I mean, going through the pandemic and depending on which kind of job you have, it could have really bankrupted you easily. And she actually says it. I had problem actually buying food. The thing that it's the most important to me is the fact that she actually started her transition after coming back home from Drag Race. She says during Untucked, I didn't want to start hormone replacement therapy before because I didn't want it to affect what I was doing on the race, which is understandable. Could it be that you couldn't really afford it? Because if you had problems buying food, how would have you been able to afford, therapy for transitioning? And maybe, you don't really want to say it. That is the thing that really got to me. Because all I see online is a lot of conversation about pronouns, a lot of conversation about people calling other people phobic because sometimes it's really stupid things, like they ask stupid questions that seem kind of offensive, but they don't really have much of malice depending on the case. But sometimes, too many times, I see that there is no actual malice behind it. It's just people trying to educate themselves and asking uncomfortable questions, if you will. And I see a lot of this, and I never see enough conversation about these people, like Jasmine, for example, who are trapped in the wrong body and they cannot even afford to get out of this situation. They cannot even afford fucking therapy. Transitioning, it's an expensive thing. You can start with hormones, yes, of course, but eventually some form of surgery will be required based on the amount of dysphoria that you have. I see a lot of all of these things online, and I'm not saying that they don't deserve attention or they are not important, but I'm like, how can we spend so much time talk about these kind of things when we have this other thing right here which has a massive impact on people that want to transition, and we just ignore it. We just push it aside to talk about other things until that's all people talk about, and they completely forget that there are people on this planet in countries, like in big countries, and they cannot even afford to transition. That's the really heartbreaking part of me. So I would like people to talk more about these kind of things. Much more. Moving on, what do we have? The lip sync. Did I like this lip sync? In general, yes. There was not much editing magic going on, which I did appreciate. I loved Lady Camden the most. I think she killed it. Diabetes, not so much. She was a pointer queen. She was pointing so much. She was basically pointing the whole time, and she had this kind of hangry vibe. I don't really think this is what the song is about. This is not a hangry song, so I didn't really like the interpretation from Diabetti. But I did like Lady Camden. I thought she really brought it the next level. The whole campiness of it perfectly worked with the song for me. So I liked her more, and I'm happy that she won. What do I think about speculations? I would stay with everything that I said during the last episode, which means Jasmine, Deja, and Carrie if they went for shock value. These are the most likely to go home. Now, one thing about Jasmine, because she really went full circle in this episode. At this point, I think two different things might happen. She also had a mirror moment already. Either her redemption arc is closed and she's basically ready to go home next episode, or maybe they're going to take us for a ride and find out that even though Georges was the one born to do drag, the real young and talented of the season is going to be Jasmine. So I don't know if it's more my wish. Maybe they go for shock value. Maybe Jasmine will be, will be the real young and talented that goes to the top and to the finale. But basically with Jasmine, I see these two possibilities and nothing in between, because basically her story is closed. It's a beautiful story arc, it's a redemption story arc, but it closes with this episode. So either she's going to go home or a new storyline is going to open. I'm curious to see where we go with this. And another thing with Diabetti, whatever they are planning for her story arc is not closed yet, because they pushed so much on the fact that she looks like Crystal, she paints like Crystal. RuPaul said it a couple times already. We had constantly Diabetti bringing it up, we have constantly Jasmine, who is the narrator of her headed, saying over and over again, she looks so much like Crystal. That's a storyline. There needs to be a arc there. So whatever is going on with her, until that arc is complete, she's not going anywhere. And so we had a shorter episode than usual. Well, hopefully maybe some people would like it even more like that. Anyway, thank you so much for joining, and a very special thanks to our patrons for supporting the channel. I'm really grateful for your support, because you gave me the opportunity to work for this channel at a human pace. It's not that I wouldn't create content if I didn't have any patrons, but with your support I can actually take some time off work instead of furiously working in the free time that I find. So I really appreciate that. And a special thanks goes to Wicked Plays, who just joined last week. Thank you so much. I will see you back probably in a couple of days, because I have a special video coming out. And for everything else, you can find me on Discord, you can find me on Twitter, via email, however you want. I'm not difficult to find. Thank you so much for being with me for another episode, and have a great week.